Benefits of being a child of divorce. That's pretty presumptuous. You're assuming that there are benefits. And very optimistic. Good for you. Now let's see how realistic that is.
Whoa.
What are the benefits? What are the benefits of being a child of divorce? You've already figured out the deficits, right?
Yeah.
You know the bad news. Now you want to talk about the benefits, the good news. Divorce seems better because now you have more attention from each parent separately. It seems to be a better way to develop relationships with your parents. Is that true?
Depends. Could be.
What does it depend on?
On the situation.
Depends on whether you want to have a relationship with your parents. But are relationships with parents better when they're divorced? Why would they be?
Maybe now the parent feels more of responsibility to give the child more attention.
Because they can't depend on the other?
No, because they, I don't know, maybe that could be a reason, or guilt by the parent maybe, is maybe focusing more attention on the child.
So what has your experience been?
Well, my experience really hasn't been that. That was a question from someone else, but I think that's someone might think that, because I've seen it in a lot of my friends, like, after the parents got divorced, they got either a lot of presents from one parent, more almost kind of like a competition, but like the kid didn't see it that way, but like other people could. So the kid feels like he's being loved and he's loving it. And I was saying, like, what's like a perspective on that? Like, is that good for the mother or father to have a want to provide more because they feel that they're lacking?
And is that really love?
Well, no.
Or is it appeasement? Particularly from the father. So getting more presents, which I think somebody actually mentions here. I get off the hook more, and I'm given more chances. Is that good?
No.
Right. Yeah. How about?
I just want to pose something within the context of the marriage. If the parents are busy fighting for whatever reason, and now that they get a divorce, it's almost the first time a child has the opportunity in however long it's been since the conflict's been around, that he can actually develop some form of relationship with the parents in the context of a...
Because they're not consumed with their fight. This is true. I think particularly of mothers. Mothers naturally are devoted to their children, and when they're fighting with their husbands, they're frustrated by their inability to relate to their children. And when the fight is over, they just naturally do what they've wanted to do all along. More so than the fathers. So, in what way is your relationship with your parents better because of the divorce, and in what way is it not? It can't be that it's all better, because then we should just get divorced as a principle, get married, have children, and then do your kids a favor and get divorced. Even if you like each other. What don't you do for your kids? But obviously that can't be true. So there may be some advantages, but there's got to be some serious disadvantages. So what makes the relationship better and what makes it worse? So better because they're not distracted and they're not consumed by their fighting with each other. That's true. You become the center of their life instead of each other being the center of their lives. But just theoretical, should you be the center of your father's life? Is that healthy? Is that good? Is that the way it should be? So let's talk about it a little differently. Forget the divorce for a moment. What is right and what is wrong with secular life in America? I'll tell you one thing. The idealistic parent in a secular world lives her life around the child. The child is important, nothing else is. So everything centers on the child. So the mother ends up spending her entire life driving the child from the karate lessons to the piano lessons to the school to the exercise to the camp to the mother has no life. Her life is catering to her kid. That is horrible for the kid. It creates little monsters. The way it's supposed to be is the mother has a busy life and the child tries to keep up. That's the way it would be, for example, in a farming community. If your parents are farmers, they're not driving you around anywhere. They work hard from morning to night, and you got to run to keep up with them. Maybe pitch in a little, do a little of this, a little of that. But they've got their life full. Ideally, they want you to become a farmer too. Take over the farm. So they're presenting you with a life that you might want as your own. That's the way it's supposed to be. But when their life is you, where are you supposed to go from there? I am the center of life.
Are you saying all the additional personal attention is really damaging you?
I mean, imagine if your parents say, you are the center of my life. Where do you go from there?
Well, if you said the opposite, it would be just as bad. Look at families where they abandon their kids and they don't give them any attention, and they feel, they don't have any support. So they get support in the wrong areas. And
Okay.
They make unhealthy decisions.
What is support? What support do you need? Encouragement, compliments, what?
Motivation.
It's a good word.
Love.
Motivation for what?
Love and affection.
For what?
To be proactive and become an independent, effective individual in society and live your own life.
Right. Whatever that is. Part of what you must get from your parents is a life worth living. If they don't have a life worth living that you would like to follow, they haven't given you anything. Well, they're giving you independence. You can be whatever you want. Well, that's very vague. And it's not true I can't be anything I want. That's such a fairy tale. I want to be a professional basketball player. Good luck. What do you mean you can be anything you want? No, you can't. Not if you're 5'2". So the point is like this. Normal life means your parents have a life that they believe in, that they're devoted to, and they hope you will too. Of course, you're free to say, no, I found a different life. Great. But your parents are giving you a life by having one. If your parents don't have a life, they're cheating you. Which is part of the reason, like, if their life is all about fighting with each other, well, no thanks. It's not a life I want. So you see, in the secular world, there are men who decide, I want to be more involved with my kids. I don't want to be an absentee father. That is such bad news. You know what he's going to do? He's going to become a second mother, because he doesn't know what a father is. Nobody knows what a father is. So if he wants to be involved with his kids, he'll diaper the baby, he'll bathe the baby, he'll feed the baby, he'll walk the baby on the stroller. He's taking away his wife's job. He's not becoming a father, he's becoming an assistant mother. So now the kid has two mothers and still no father. And the mother is not much of a mother either, because all she does is cater to him, to the kid. So now they're both running circles around the kid. Where do you need to go now? What do you need to do now? I'll take you. I'll show you. I'll bring you. Get a life. Kids hate to be the focus of that much attention, because it's not justified. What are you giving me all this attention for? Feed me lunch and get lost. What's with this suffocating attention? So really, what is a father? Does anybody need a father? Are fathers good for anything at all? Besides money? I think it's a relevant question, because you're going to become a father, not a mother. Who needs a father?
For discipline?
Wait till your father comes home. He'll shoot you with a bazooka. Is that the father's role?
Not a bazooka, a belt.
But the father is supposed to introduce a little violence into the family. That's... But that is such a universal idea. Mother saying, wait till your father comes home. I can't beat you up the way he can. What is that? That's it? The first role of a father, the first thing the father gives the child is a stable mother. That's a big gift. If the father provides the child with a happy mother, that's a big blessing. The father's primary responsibility is to his wife, because his wife's job is so impossible. It is so demanding, it is so overwhelming, that without his real support, she can't do it. She'll get nervous, she'll get hysterical, she'll get hyper, or she'll just collapse and she'll quit, and you're not going to have a mother if there isn't a father. So the first gift that the father gives the child is a healthy mother.
That means his wife is at his center. That means a man's wife is his center. And that is healthy.
Yeah.
Does it work like the mother centers the children, so the father centers like indirectly his children?
So if you think about it, for example, like a kid training for the Olympics. So the kid has a trainer, and then he performs at the Olympics and either wins or loses, right? Then there's the judge that decides how well he performed. But the coach can't be the judge, because the coach is in there, in the training, in the trenches with the kid. So really, when a mother says, "Wait till your father comes home," it's not only negative. It's not only when you fail and your father is going to discipline you. When you succeed, the kid does something well for the first time, the mother will be saying, "Wait till your father comes home. He'll be so impressed," or "he'll be so surprised." In other words, the father is like the judge while the mother is the trainer. They both want to please the father, the mother and the child. So the mother sits there and teaches the child to count to 10. And the child learns to count to 10. Wait till your father comes home. When your father is pleased and impressed, everybody's happy. When your father is upset with you, oh, that's bad news. Because the father is like the standard setter, the judge. That's a huge role in a child's life. You get approval from your father, you feel like a mensch. Real approval, not cheap compliments.
Now, what is a healthy judge?
Hmm?
What is a healthy judge? What is a healthy father? What are those healthy standards that he's setting?
Well, there's this classical story where the Friedrich Rebbe writes in his diary that he was, 5 or 6 years old, and he was eating in the morning, and his father walked in and said, "Did you make brachas yet?" So he started to cry. And the mother said, he was hungry, and so he needs to eat something. The father says, "Before brachas?" So he started to shake, tremble. So the mother said, "He's shaking. Enough already, he's shaking." And the Rebbe Rashab said, "If you eat before brachas, you should tremble." So his mother said, "He's just a child." So his father said, "A child doesn't stay a child very long. Before you know it, he's grown up. And when you grow up, what do you discover? You discover what a child you are." So the difference between a child and an adult is very small. The Rebbe writes in his diary that he is so thankful and grateful to his parents for raising him so well. I mean, that's, I think, a classical example of the mother's role and the father's role. It's not like, the kid is now confused because the father and mother don't agree. No, that's exactly perfect. A good cop, bad cop. It's perfect. The mother is in there with the child, trying to raise the child, to make a mensch out of the child, and he's still a child and he's still in training. So give him a break. But the father says, but right is right and wrong is wrong. Perfect balance. So the mother kind of caters to the child as the child happens to be, whatever strengths or weaknesses the child has. Whereas the father holds up a standard of how it ought to be. Not completely inconsiderate of a child's limits. Obviously, it has to be age appropriate. Like he didn't ask him whether he learned Rambam yet, because that's not what you expect from a 6-year-old. But to say brachas, yeah, you expect that from a 6-year-old. So the father's job is to never compromise the standard. The mother's job is to recognize a child's limits and work with the limits.